So Jay, you're out, you're free, you're rehabilitated. What's next? What's happening? What you gonna do?
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
Please go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied. With me in Dog Bowl Studios is my co-host,
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any pod catchers. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday evening at 10 p.m. Central Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. We would like to thank Bob Zerl for his technical contributions. Our sponsor is Ragged Records in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, soon to be coming to downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for letting us use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Our guest this evening is Brian Vander Ark of the Verve Pipe.
Yeah, the Verve Pipe. They had their major label debut back in 1996 with Villains, the songs Photograph, and The Freshman was their big hit. I remember that one
Biggie
coming out. I was a big fan of the Verve Pipe back in that post-grunge era of the late 90s.
Yep. And they also have a live social distance show coming October 17th. And where's that at, Jeff?
Omaha, Nebraska at the Orpheum Theater.
At the Orpheum Theater in Omaha, Nebraska, October 17th, which is on a Saturday night, correct?
Yes.
Well, you should be looking for that. Hopefully you guys have tickets for that show if you live in that area. If not, let's get on to this episode.
All right. Good night.
Good night. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
How's it going, Brian?
What's up, Jeff? All right, what's happening?
So, we're really excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you for agreeing to do this. And Kelly's been great for all the emailing that we've done between us. So, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess the first thing we want to kind of talk about is you have some new music planned for 2021. Can you give us a little insight, a little sneak peek?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're constantly writing and throwing stuff away and working on old stuff and trying to, make the best albums we can possibly make over the years. And I think we raised the bar the last few albums, and so now it's going to be, I don't want to say more of the same because that sounds boring, but if you like what you do, I guess more of the same is okay, storytelling type songs and, rock and roll and some acoustic stuff as well. So I'm excited. I'm always excited to put records out.
Absolutely. Excuse me. I know October 17th, you and the band are going to be doing a socially distanced show in Omaha. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that'll be the first show we've done, the first theater show we've done in some time. So that's going to be a big deal for us and a pretty cool venue as well. So I'm excited about that.
So do you have any idea, I guess, schematically, how the venue is going to set up the socially distanced part of the audience for the band? Is there any communication that goes along with the band and the venue?
No. I think that, we leave it up to the venue as long as there's social distancing that is happening. I would imagine with them selling half of the theater out, that you would have people, in groups. If you're together with, 3 or 4 people, then you sit in a group together and then there's space around you, that kind of thing. I mean, if I was an audience member, that's my dream seating arrangement anyway, even without COVID. I would love to be in a movie theater with a few of my friends and then nobody around us, So I don't have any issue with that at all. So.
All right. The what's the name of the venue you guys are playing?
I believe it's the let me look it up to be sure. I don't want to get it wrong. It's one of the only theaters in Omaha. Let me look it up. Hold on 1 second here. I want to make sure I pronounce it right. Orpheum.
Oh, very
the
good.
Orpheum Theater. Yeah. Well, you guys know that place?
So they got the social media, using the live stream, and how's that been working during the pandemic? Embracing using different platforms of social media.
Yeah, of course, but I mean, we're not. I'm so sick of. I'm really sick of seeing live streams, and I think people are getting burned out by the same old. I mean, everybody is live streaming from Blake Shelton down to my old Army buddy. It's like you can see anything, any kind of music you want. 24 hours a day on every social media platform. I think the key is to do live streams in an interesting way. Like we just 3 nights ago, we did a show where we all sat in a circle in a club, and all the chairs were up, like the club is closed. And then we played to each other and we told stories to each other. And we've been together so long that it's just fun to like reminisce and talk about where the stories come from without even acknowledging the live stream, and just so you get to be a fly on the wall with the band. And
yeah, that's cool.
I figure the way to do it is like, I would want to see that kind of show from my favorite band. So I said, well, let's do a 4-camera shoot and try this, and we did, and it was just fantastic. And I'm sure we'll do that again too. So finding interesting ways to live stream instead of just playing your show as if there's a crowd there, which is it's just boring to me.
We had Ricky Warwick on a couple weeks ago of Black Star Riders, and he's doing the live stream show. I think he said what once a month. Is that what he said, Jeff?
Yeah.
So he was trying to figure out a way to where he's not oversaturating it, to where he could still maybe make a little bit of money on it. I guess, what is the secret for the Verve Pipe? Is it one of those kind of things when you're doing something like this? How do you know what is not enough and what is too much? Where's that happy medium when it comes to live streaming for the Verve Pipe?
Well, first of all, I think I don't think anybody's chomping at the bit for the next Verve Pipe live stream show if it's going to be the same every time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is we try to do a theme. Like we're going to do this album from start to finish, and we're going to talk about where the songs came from. Nice. That kind of thing. And then we can do, we've had 7 or 8 albums. Then we can do we did 2 kids albums, so we can do those as kids live streams too. So, put your kid in front of the screen and we'll put on a kids show, that kind of thing. So, I mean, that's the way to do it. If we were to put on the same show every night and even once a month, I would think that your numbers would go down. But if you provide really interesting content, for example, the storytelling, or where the songs come from, or you bring different instruments along and play the entire set with different instruments, even toy instruments, anything that might be interesting to the fan. Yeah. That's what you have to do to keep it interesting, and to sell the tickets, and to also keep it interesting for yourself. That's why I love this band, is because everybody's a multi-instrumentalist. Everybody can just swap instruments and we can play, and we have a blast doing it. And then sometimes we'll make up an extra verse for something. Typically not the Freshman, because that's pretty definitive. But sometimes we'll just mess around and break into a favorite cover song or whatever. I mean, being spontaneous with the live stream is very, very important in my mind, because people have to get the sense that there's something exciting happening and that it might all go wrong at any minute. For instance, our show the other night, our drummer made a mistake. We had to stop the song, and it was a very funny, ridiculous moment for a song that we'd never played live before.
Okay.
And then we introduced 2 new songs that we had never played live before. And then I, in the middle of the live stream, handed out sheets of paper with lyrics on them and said, I've been working on this song. Let's work on it together right now, much to the shock of the rest of the guys. But everybody came together. We workshopped the song right there in the live stream concert. I mean, it was a blast.
That's
a lot of fun.
That really is a really organic way of doing things on a live stream, and that's like brilliant, actually.
Well, how would you want to see your favorite band? Wouldn't you want to see them in that kind of format, or would you just want to see a standard concert with no audience? That's why this is like, I think this whole thing's going to be a terrific way for people to start thinking outside of the box. Don't just set up in front of a camera and play for the Facebook people. Actually have a Facebook forum, try different songs, take requests, do these kinds of things, do things on the fly. Don't be afraid to fall on your face. That's always been my band's motto. Try everything and something will stick, and that's how you gain a following.
I think you're really onto something there, because when people like us can view something like that, a creation of a song, the story of the song being created right on the spot, I guess there's nothing more real than that. But I guess that goes into my next question for you. October 10th, you performed virtually in your hometown, and it was co-hosted by 2 venues. And I guess the question I have on that is, like, how did that work logistically, and how did that all set up schematically for you, the town, the venues? How did that work? Yeah.
That was the show that I've been talking about. The Listening Room and the Ark are 2 of the best venues in Michigan for a smaller venue, 400 seats. And so instead of traveling to the Ark, which is across the state for us, we said, well, let's do it at the Listening Room, this place that has a lot of the same artists as you do. And we'll hire 4 cameras, and we're going to do this intimate, it's almost like the band is rehearsing. Like, we didn't acknowledge, like, there was no introduction. We just started messing around and playing. I opened up with a Jim Croce riff for Time in a Bottle, and then intentionally played it wrong just to crack everybody up. I had to clap her for the lights. I'd clap my hands and turn the light on. I mean, these are like these things that we do in rehearsal halls. When we play with each other is what I wanted people to be privy to, because I've got some really funny guys and really great storytellers in my band, and I think that's why that worked. It worked, and having it shot beautifully. Everybody brought in their own lamp from home that they wanted to show off. I mean, it's just like this silly little thing, but man, I was just looking at the footage today for the first time, and I was just blown away by how interesting I thought it was, and I hate watching our band.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I guess take us back a little bit to 1996, the album Villains. That was your major label breakthrough. What was it like hearing your songs on the radio the first time?
Well, the first time I heard a song of mine on the radio was a song. It wasn't on that album. It was a song I'd written for the American Farmer that Willie Nelson had heard and invited me to play at Farm Aid 4. And I got to hear that song. It was only on AM stations, local AM stations, and I was working at a sporting goods store at the time, and they let me put the radio on because I knew it was going to be on. And I'm stringing a tennis racket, and that frickin' song comes on, and I'm like, oh my God, I've finally made it. Here I am, in my work clothes, stringing a tennis racket. Yeah. And it's coming through an AM radio where it's fading in and out, and here I am thinking that I finally made it, and I was so thankful. And then I worked at that store for another 5 years or something after that. But then the first time, like Photograph, our first hit Photograph came out, and I was in Florida, and I was riding in a convertible. And I was so embarrassed by the idea of having a convertible, but I'd ordered it and then I got it. I was like, oh my God, I can't be seen in this thing, because it was very at that time it was very anti-corporation, and I looked an anti-hair band. I looked like a real douchebag, I thought. And I happened to be with a beautiful girl that, she was, she was my kind of on and off girlfriend at the time, who offered to give me some pleasure during the pleasing of the song itself, if you know what I mean. And I denied that because I didn't spring insurance, and I thought, well, what if we get in an accident? And I didn't spring for the insurance on this $30,000, whatever it was, Ford Mustang.
Yeah.
So it could have been a much better experience, is what I'm telling you. But I ruined that with my own Christian guilt.
I'm going to totally switch gears on you from that.
What's wrong with the gear that we're in?
There's nothing wrong with that, but I try to get all these, I have to think really hard when I form my questions, and I really, bend my mind to think, okay, I really want to make this a good interview for the guest, and things like, I don't want to answer the same questions that I've answered a million times, so I really try to bend it hard. So I hope you appreciate that. So yourself, the rest of the band have been extremely...
Can I tell you something before you go any further, though?
Sure.
That's the first time I've ever told that story on anybody's podcast. So take that.
Cool.
Fantastic. That is...
anyway, go ahead.
Groundbreaking. Yeah. Brian, that was absolutely groundbreaking.
Yeah.
So back to what I was saying is, you and yourself have been... and the rest of the band have been really extremely on the business side of the music business. I guess... how challenging has it been for you, the rest of the band, to be not only musicians but entrepreneurs of the band at the same time? How does that balance come into effect? Has it been a struggle? Has the rest of the band struggled with that, or has it been kind of seamlessly easy for you?
Well, I can tell you, it's never easy, but, back in 1992 when we formed the band, we were going to be our own machine. We were just going to make albums. We sold 20,000 copies of our first independent, and then we took some of that money and made another album and sold 40,000 copies, and here the band's making upwards of $300,000 or $400,000 before we've even got a record deal. And we're like, well, we could just, build this thing into our own machine, or we could go for the big money right away. We ended up going for the big money. And with that big money, you get fly-by-night fans. You sell 3 or 4 million records and you have 3 or 4 million fans, but then the next album comes out and you sell 50,000. Well, look, this is the price you pay for signing with the major label when you don't get the priority after that. Mm-hmm. So, now, and since 2001, when we got dropped after our 9/11 album came out, we've built this into our own little empire where we can do what we want to do and not do the things we don't want to do. And that's worth all of the hard work, for sure.
Excuse me.
I guess on the business to musician side of things, do you get that same satisfaction on the entrepreneur side that you do as a creative musician side of things? Is there...
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, nobody's chasing radio anymore. I'm not chasing radio hits. I don't have anybody telling me that's not a hit. You got to go write some hits. I mean, those days have been long over. When we took the reins back, it was like, we're just going to write the stuff we like to write. And as confounding as it was to anybody who had ever known us, we put out that first kids record, and that was a huge success for us. That, we sold a ton of those kids records because of Sirius XM Kids Place Live. They played the shit out of that album. And then we played all these kids shows, and then we made another kids album because we were selling more kids records than we were our adult records. And then, frankly, I just got sick of making kids music, and I wanted to get dark again.
Get back into
and then we started making our own records, and the parents buy the new records, that came to the kids shows. The kids are now grown up, and they're buying our records, so it's all worked out,
Nice.
That's part of being an entrepreneur, is thinking outside the box.
Well, absolutely. And, as far as on the creative process, maybe a lot of our listeners didn't realize that you recorded 2 kid albums. And, what challenge or obstacles did the band have when creating kid-friendly music? how challenging was it for you guys to do that? To
Not
go from,
at all.
Oh,
I mean, here's
cool.
the great thing about it. We're all kids. I mean, everybody in this band is super immature. They're mature enough to get along together. You know, we're not 19-year-old kids who beat each other up on the road, but we have a kid spirit about our you know, the way we live our lives is with a kid-like spirit. You know, we like a good like a good joke. We like a good laugh. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Like kids don't typically take themselves too seriously, little kids. And so, you know, we could make these big sounding rock records with 4-part harmonies and huge guitar solos and the whole thing, and then have silly lyrics and funny stories for kids. And that's what sold people, because nobody was really doing that at the time. You know, there are a lot of bands that do it now, but for us it was like. And another thing is you can explore so many instruments. Imagine if we had put an oboe on the Villains record. People would say, oh, that's so pretentious. Even I would listen and go, that's too pretentious. We can't. You can put an oboe on a kid's record, and that kid who's in band, who plays the oboe, who gets picked on every day, can say, look at this shit. These guys put an oboe solo on a rock and roll song, and we made that kid happy. I mean, that's why I think our kids' albums were so successful, because we weren't afraid to do. You know, look at Sgt. Pepper's. That's a kid's record, man. A lot of that stuff is like, you know, come on, Lovely Rita Meter Maid and all these other songs that are like, what? You know, the great thing about that album is that it's all over the map. That could be a kid's record. Yellow Submarine, another great Beatles kids song. You know, these are the kinds of things that we tried to do, and it worked for us. Still works for us. We still sell more of those records than our own records, than our rock records.
Fantastic.
Now, did you do any kind of shows or any kind of live shows with those for?
Oh my God, we played
audiences?
Lollapalooza. We played Lollapalooza kid shows.
Awesome.
We played Austin City Limits. They had a kid stage, and we're not talking about a little dinky stage. We're talking a full blown stage where, you know, 10,000 kids are there with their parents who go, you know, who want to go see, you know, whoever, and then they come and they let the kids come and see the kids shows. I mean, we had a song called Cereal, and how I love my cereal, and I would fill up my acoustic guitar with 2 family-sized boxes of Fruity Pebbles, and at the end of the set, I would lift this thing over my face, and I would pour those Fruity Pebbles all over myself, and the kids loved it. And they, you know what, here's the really disgusting thing about it is that at every single show, no matter where we did that, kids would rush the stage and they would eat the disgusting cereal off the stage and off the ground. Sometimes there's cigarette butts in there too. And these kids would they'd be eating handfuls of these Fruity Pebbles that came out of my guitar. Anyway, so we always had a blast with the kids shows. I mean,
nice.
we had people put on costumes and come up. You know, we did Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult, but we called it Griffzilla because we have a guy named Griff who plays harmonica, so we dressed him up in this Godzilla uniform, and he came out and he, you know, to the riffs of Godzilla, and he played harmonica, and it was just a blast. It was so much fun.
That's cool.
Fantastic. I just want to tell you that you just totally, the Fruity Pebbles thing, or you ruined it for me now, so I can't ever eat another bowl of that. So
sorry about that. Well, you don't need to eat that shit anyway.
When writing traditional verve pipe music, how has your creativity changed from the early years? I mean, I guess maybe the maturity of your writing, has it changed at all, or has it pretty much stayed the course?
I think that it changes in the sound. I think that, you know, when you've written so many songs over the years, and only 25% of those songs actually make it to recordings, because, you know, you start to listen to it and you go, oh, this one's shit. This is no good. I'm not going to record that one. This one's great, but it doesn't fit a verve pipe record, you know. And so I make solo records, or maybe this is a kid's song once we work it out. I think it's all pretty much the same. I mean, I think we're true to ourselves, to our sound. It's just that you have to be musical and you have to have something to say. And if a song isn't musical, if it's just the same 2 chords over and over and over, or it's the same, or the lyric themes are all "woe is me" and "life sucks" and another breakup, then those are the ones that get put by the wayside, because I want to take people on a musical journey from song 1 to song 12 on an album. And most people don't even buy albums anymore, but those that do know that when they buy one of our albums, that we're going to have this roller coaster ride of emotions that you go through, and I think that's where the entertainment lies.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
So outside of Verpipe, you've had a pretty successful solo career. You got 7 solo albums, or 6 technically, and then I saw there was a new Planet Sunday Sessions Volume 1. Is that considered an album?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a record with some of my favorite songs, but done on acoustic guitar, so I did Smells Like Teen Spirit on acoustic guitar,
Detroit Rock
and
City.
Detroit Rock City, finger-picking versions of these songs that are hard rock songs. And if you listen to them, they're different, but you can see that they're just great songs, no matter, without the bombast of the bass and drums. Kurt Cobain probably wrote Smells Like Teen Spirit sitting on his bed somewhere on an acoustic guitar, that's what I wanted people to understand. Same thing with Detroit Rock City, these guys, probably worked on their lyrics with acoustic guitars, and that's what I wanted to get across.
I'm going to kind of take this another direction. Patreons. I know the bands, you have a Patreon now. It's kind of like the idealistic way for bands to create new music, fund new music. Can you give us a little bit more information on the band's Patreon and how are you using it?
Yeah, the band doesn't have their own. I have my own.
Oh, okay.
Patreon.com/Brian Vander Ark. That's what Patreon's been a lifesaver for me. It pays the mortgage now. 6 months ago, we had 40 dates cancel or something. And I was like, oh, now what? What are we going to do? And then I heard about Patreon. I went there and I checked out Ben Folds' page, and I thought, he's got a great thing going on here. He really puts it all out there. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to 100% put it out there, put everything out there for my people, and offer them great things, and offer them exclusive things, and Zoom concerts and that kind of thing, birthday shout-outs, all that stuff, and be really connected. And then I kind of ignored the rest of my social media for the most part, because I wanted to pay attention to those real supporters, the ones that could put, $3 a month into my career for me. And, even having 150 or 200 or 300 patrons pays the bills. It's a great, great service. I love it. Love it.
You have been involved in public speaking for a while now. How did it how did it evolve for you, and how did you get involved with it?
Well, in 2008, I started lawn chairs and living rooms, house concerts, where I just went into people's homes. But I did it like guerrilla style. So, for instance, I would get somebody to book me into their home, and I would go there, and the price would be a certain amount. But then I'd say, well, if I can book another show in your city while I'm there, let's say somebody books me in St. Louis, and I put an email out to my St. Louis people, and I say, I'm coming. If you want to get on this, get on it. Then everybody's price comes way down. And I would do 2 or 3 of these a day. So, in one summer, I will play 110 shows, and I did that for 14 years. And I had a guy that I did this for 1 year. He said he worked for UBS, the big banking, the big bank UBS. And he said, you ought to come and tell your story to my people. And I was like, what, really? And he said, yeah, I think you got a great comeback story. And I did. I went and told it. And then he booked me at a few more, and then it got better and better and better, and more and more and more. And now it's called Rockstar Reinvention, of how to reinvent yourself, in a new world. And this was because our album, our big comeback album, and the movie Rockstar came out with our song in the end of it called Colorful, and that album and that movie were released on 9/11. So I had to figure out how to come back from that after I was dropped from the label. And now I got to figure out, part of the Rockstar Reinvention is a reinvention with COVID,
Yeah.
So there's a whole other series that I'm working on now of how to make things work, you know. So that's how I got into it, through this one guy. And then I do 20 or 30 of these a year, and it's a blast, a lot of fun. You know, play a couple songs, but tell the linear story of the band and tell banks and business people and salespeople how to stay motivated, you know.
Oh, very cool. Go ahead, Jeff.
And then speaking of Rockstar, you did a little bit of acting in that and some other movies.
Yeah, very little.
Very little.
You want to expand on that at all?
For 3 lines, three lines in a movie, I had to have a mullet for 3 months in a Rockstar movie.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You know?
Any interest in getting into that more?
No, I mean, I do. I mean, I've written movies and you know, I've written, I think, 5 short films that we've filmed that have gone to festivals, and I've acted in some of them, and some of them I haven't. Some of them I just wrote. So, you know, I just enjoy doing it for fun. I have a lot of friends in the film business, but they're all the guys that do the cool, fun, independent films. So, nice. And they just do it because they want to shoot something on the weekend. So that's the kind of thing I'm into more than the big time stuff, you know.
Well, speaking of films, you're friends with actor musician Jeff Daniels. Can you give our listeners an insight on you and Jeff's musical relationship at all?
Yeah. I mean, lately it's just been a friendship, musical relationship. We had, you know, we released an album together. It's been 4 years now, I think. Mm-hmm. But you know, Jeff saw a documentary we made about that Lawn Chairs and Living Rooms tour, and he called me up and said, "Man, I love this documentary." And I said, we should write together, because I've seen him perform a few times. Very talented singer. People don't know that. Very talented singer and storyteller, and very funny, you know. And so I said, let's write together. We wrote a couple songs together, and that was 2009 or something. So we've been friends since. I mean, I consider him a good friend. He's a great guy. He's a Michigan guy, you know. He lives a couple hours away, but he's, you know, prolific and a great writer and a great storyteller. That's where the value is in collaborating, is that I could come up with a story and he would say, this doesn't work, but it works if you do this. And everything he does is very cinematic, you know, as an actor. So it was very helpful. A very talented guy.
Oh, cool. I have one more question for you. I always like to throw a curveball question at our guests. So here's my curveball question. Are you ready? I don't know if you're a baseball fan or not.
Sure.
So.
I am. Thank you. Except my Tigers are sucking it this year. Anyway.
Well, the Cubs made it to the playoffs for us this year, but it wasn't nothing pretty. So anyway, so you're Ted Nugent, Michigan man. He's a proud Michigan man. We get musicians on the podcast from time to time that kind of have their thoughts on Ted. You being a Michigan guy that you are, what is the consensus up there with musicians and Ted Nugent? Is it a welcoming thing, like they're proud that Ted Nugent came from Michigan, or is it one of those kind of things, stay away, don't come back? You know, because we get all kinds of people with their thoughts on Ted. So what's your take on Ted Nugent?
I can tell you from where I stand and where my friends stand, and you know, I've always tried to, you know, separate the politics from the music. And you know, Ted is one of those guys that, listen, when you hear Stranglehold, there's no denying, you know, how great that song is. And I go, you know, Cat Scratch Fever is one of the first songs I learned how to play on electric guitar. So you have to admire that. And so when the conversation is about music, if you're sitting around the fire and you're, you know, taking pulls from a bottle of bourbon or something, and you're talking about music, everybody in Michigan will tell you, oh my God, yeah, I love Ted Nugent, he's so great. Same thing with Bob Seger and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. If you start talking about politics, we all laugh at him. He's a joke. You know, we're not, you know, nobody's going to say, nobody in our circle is going to say anything good about Ted Nugent when it comes to his politics, and that, you know, he's a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to that stuff. However, you want to talk about music, which I prefer to talk about over politics, I'll tell you what, I would say, yeah, absolutely, Ted Nugent's one of those guys that, you know, we're proud to have from Michigan, you know. But he is also part of the problem in Michigan right now. How can you be the solution to great music and part of the problem politically in Michigan? But the guy seems to be able to do it. he's walking that line.
He is,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we're about done for tonight. We want to thank you for coming. Is there anything that you would like to plug or promote before we let you go for the evening?
No, I mean, mentioning the Patreon page was really nice, you guys. Otherwise, we're pretty active on social media, so any of the Verpipe Facebook pages or, go to my Instagram.com/Brian Vander Ark and check out my little funny little videos and that kind of thing, But that's about it. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, this is how it's going to kind of work out. We have a couple of episodes to release before you. We're looking about 2 weeks. And then when your episode is up, Jeff, our editing wizard over here, will have it up through Libsyn, and we'll send it to Kelly. And then please share it wherever you can. And if you'd like to come on we're on Nothing Shocking Podcast on Facebook, and then also on Twitter at No Shock Pod. Like us if you could, or send people your way. We'd love to have them on as our guest. And I just can't thank you enough for coming
really
on the show.
appreciate you taking the time.
Been fantastic.
Nice talking to you, Eric and Jeff, right?
Yep.
Correct, yes. Yep.
Good
Thank you
talking to you guys, man.
All
A
right,
lot of
thank
fun.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.